Sorry for the delay. I had somebody walk into the shop, so unfortunately I had to take care of that first. How is everybody today? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're excited because we have just one more part before we assemble, one more block before we assemble the rest of this quilt top for Stitch Happens. And it's a very simple piecing block. So this is basically, I've laid them all, make sure I laid them out with the right sides up. Sometimes with white on white, it's a little bit difficult to tell. Okay, there we go. So this is what it's gonna, yeah, okay. Sorry, a little off today. It's been a late start and a lot of going on with a little bit. This is the layout, very simple. The only thing I'm going to use is a scissor to cut my threads, but other than that, there's nothing else that you need. Best press, as always. I always recommend it. Hopefully you can hear me. Whoever's on, if you could just give me a holler and comment, let me know that you can hear me. So basically, we are going to sew this piece, this white piece to this piece. Now this is supposed to represent a spool of thread. I'm going to sew this one to this one. These two together, sew them to this, sew the last orange part to this part, and then this is just to pick up the spacing. So this gets sewn to this part once you're all done. How is everybody? Someone on that, they can tell me if you hear me, because I don't hear anything. Hopefully you can hear me. So if you hadn't had a chance to read my post today, we had quite the excitement with Little Bit yesterday. Little Bit is walking much more on her own. She is climbing. So this might be a rehash of what I said already on the post, but if you haven't read the post yet, it's new to you. I'm going to put the white on top when I iron the seam over. Actually, I'm going to put the blue on top when I iron the seam over. That will keep the seam on the blue part, and it won't act as a shadow on the front in the white part. So I took Little Bit home in her carrier yesterday as normal, and I put her on the counter so I can unpack all her stuff. I swear it's like having a baby. You know, you got to take everything with you, wipes and formula and toys and blankets, and it's crazy. So I put her on the counter so that I could unpack all her stuff, and I have a blanket over the carrier just so that when we're traveling in the car, because she still can't completely regulate her body temperature, and I don't want her to get cool with the AC in the car. And all of a sudden I see the top of the blanket popping and moving a lot. When I pulled the blanket aside, Little Bit had found the only part of the carrier that was not zipped closed. It was maybe that big. And she was, when I pulled the blanket back, she was half in and half out of the carrier. Needless to say, she just about gave me a heart attack. So I spent a good portion last night of trying to find all of our crates and everything else that we've had in the years past for our small dogs, and trying to get her set up just like when you have a child. You know, when you have a car seat in one car, you have a car seat in another car, you have a playpen at one house and travel crib at another house. Well, now Little Bit has a crate here and a crate at home, and it took a little while for her to settle last night. Now again, as you can see this part here, I'm going to keep the bigger piece on top when I iron this seam, so that when I do iron it over, you don't see a shadow on the white. That was my fun last night. She's getting much bigger. It surprises me how fast they grow. I mean, I'm really, really, really surprised. I mean, I knew, you know, puppies grow fast, but for some reason, being this close to her birthday, you know, being around her when she was this small, just how much she's growing is just astronomical to me. Okay, so now I'm going to sew these two pieces together, sew them then to this part, so this part to here, and then we're ready for our final piece. I told you this one's a very simple piecing block. Who do we have on today? Anybody? Did you catch my video last night with the new fabric and notions that we have in? I've got one woolly mat remaining. One of them is already sold. They don't stick around very long. And this is one of the largest mats that they sell, that they make. I don't even have the big mat. I still have the 17 by 17. But the one that I'm selling. Hi, Kamel, how are you? The one that I'm selling for the mats is 17 by 24, so it's a really nice size. Now to iron this seam and set this seam, I'm going to keep the orange on top again. That's just so that when I iron it over, I don't have a shadow, seam shadow behind the white. And I tried to do this for the most part as much as possible through this quilt, but it's not always possible when you're trying to piece this many small pieces. What you think of that fabric that I showed last night? Isn't that elegant and gorgeous for a festive season 3 with all that lace? I just think it's beautiful. Okay, now we're just going to sew the next piece up. Now, if all your seams aren't perfect, don't freak out, because we can trim this up and straighten it. There's room to play with this. Hi, Suzanne. So today is Stitch and Bitch Day. How appropriate when we're doing Stitch Happens. Now, again, this one, when I set the seam, I'm going to have this orange part on top, not these. That way when I iron it over, again, the seam is going to be on the darker orange fabric. So, Stitch and Bitch today. Do you have something to work on? You want to get out of the house? Need a little bit of help? This is the perfect class for you. It's a free sit and sew all day. I always have coffee, tea, and water available for anybody that comes to visit. I never know how many people are going to be here or when they're going to come, but it's always a good time. We always have a lot of fun. So I'm just going to straighten this a little bit and clean it up just a little bit. And all I'm doing is using the lines on the ruler on the seam just to make sure I'm nice and straight. That's it. That's all I took off. Whoops. See, just that little itty bitty bit, just to kind of straighten us out a little bit. Now, I'm just going to sew this final piece to here, and then we're ready for this big piece. Now, as I said in the beginning, the white is definitely got some room to play as far as space. So if your seams aren't 100% an exact 1/4 inch, and nobody's are, It's something that we strive for, but it doesn't happen very often. Don't worry. We're just going to trim them up. It will all go together perfectly. If you get a chance to see the pictures that I sent, both on email and on Facebook, I apologize for those of you who don't necessarily want to keep continuing to see the escapades of Little Bit. But for those of you who do, take a look at some of the close-up shots that I did today of her eyes and her face. She's really growing and changing a lot. I'm kind of curious to see if her eyes are going to remain that kind of hazily blue, or if they're going to change with the older she gets. They really are starting to turn out pretty. Not that she's not a cute cat. And yes, I will remind everybody, I'm not a cat person. I'm a dog person. But it's hard not to think she's cute, especially when I'm spending this much time with her. They really do start to develop their own personalities. Okay. Now. All right. I think I cut my white way bigger than I needed it. Let's see, how big is this? I cut these a long time ago, so I'm not surprised. Let me just trim this up. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to trim it afterwards. I'd rather than wait, making you guys wait. Okay. As you can see, this white, I don't know, was probably towards the end of my cutting. So it is much, much larger than we need. And it's not unheard of for me to miscut. I'd rather overcut and cut it too big than cut it too small. So all I'm going to do is sew this part to this part, iron the seam open, not open, but iron the seam over. And then what I would do is just trim this up according to the seam, using a ruler on the seam, a bigger ruler than this. So I would use a line on the ruler on the seam so that I know it's nice and straight. And then have the ruler touch the edge of the top, but going that way, obviously, you know, a longer ruler. So if you put one line on the seam, making sure that the edge of your ruler is even with the top of this spool, and then you'll be able to cut it straight across with no problem. Sorry about that. I usually double check all of that, but it happens. We got mugs in yesterday, coffee mugs. We've had these mugs in before, and they usually sell pretty fast. They're a great Christmas gift, and you can fill them. I have some really cute little thread scissors or embroidery scissors, whatever you want to call them, that would fit nicely in them. And the scissors are only, I want to say $3.99. Now, again, this time we're going to keep the smaller piece up, so the bulk of the seam will be on the orange parts and won't show up on this side. We got a couple of books in. We got Best Press in yesterday. We got Basel. both in the rolls and the double-sided basil that we use for bags. We got all kinds of little things in yesterday. We get more friction pens and regular flower pins and all kinds of stuff. And that's on top of the fabric that we got in. All right. Now, barring this piece being too big because I messed up, you get the idea. Now, I'm going to take my glasses off so I can see. We're going to piece the bulk of this, or I should say assemble the bulk of this next week, so it's all done. But in the meantime, this small part down here, not the white ends and not the blue at the bottom, you can sew all of those together. You can sew just this part right here together. And you can make sure that that top part and the needle assembly is done. Once you put those together, then the rest of this we will put together, assemble next week. Just look at the assembly drawings that's at the bottom, and it's going to show you. So this can be all put together. We'll put this on at the end. You can make sure that these two parts are together. Don't put the spool up yet on top because it's got to go with the top part, because it's not going to line up with this part. You can put these two pieces together, and you should be able to also put this piece and the square piece in the center together. Then we only have the outside edge to assemble next week. Then we're going to have a couple of weeks where I'm going to take some time, 2, maybe 3. It just depends on what happens. So that I can do some ruler work on it and quilt it, and then we'll be ready to pick these videos up again with ruler work. Does anybody have any questions or comments or anything? All right, then I'm going to leave you right there and hope you have a wonderful day. If you need anything, you know where I am. It's Stitch and Bitch Day. Come on down. Oh, one more very important thing, and I did this in the video last night. I almost forgot. Those of you who've done donation quilts for Coquina Elementary School, I'm begging you. As you know, we were nominated, I was nominated for Hometown Hero for News Channel 13, and they accepted. And it's not for me. I can't tell you enough, it's not for me. I only facilitated it and organized the donations and asked for the donations. I've donated a couple of quilts, a few quilts myself, but this is all you. You are all the heroes, not me. So please, I am begging you. They will be here August 1st at around 11 a.m. Anybody who's donated quilts, please be here between 10:30 and 10:45. I really, really do not want to do this by myself. I have a couple of people that have offered, but so many people have donated. I know there's a lot of you out there, and I really want you to take your bow in the spotlight, because you are the heroes. I am not. All I did was organize it and ask. That's it. So please, if you can make it and come down, drop me a line, put a comment in YouTube, send me an email or message, whatever, to let me know that you're going to be here. I really would like as many of you here as possible. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I really think you all deserve a pat on the back, and this is how you're going to get that pat on the back. Please be here. Do not make me do this by myself, because I really don't want to. All right. That's all I have. I promise I'm done. If you need anything, you know where I am. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you later.